Bitcoin mining is boiling the oceans. I'm sure you've heard that saying before somewhere or you've read it somewhere. However, in today's video, I want to show you what the mining industry is actually really like, why it's using a lot of renewable energies, how mining actually works, and sort of the 101 in Bitcoin mining you need to know in case that saying comes up again. But to establish the ground rules, let's look at how mining actually works and what it's actually doing in the Bitcoin network. See, thanks to the miners, we have the 10-minute block time, meaning every 10 minutes on average, there is a new block in the Bitcoin blockchain. Miners who find these blocks and to then add all of the transactions in the mempool to it are actually not doing a whole lot more than solving a giant mathematical puzzle. Imagine mining as a group of collective people, could be companies, could be individuals, there's a lot of possibilities these days, sitting together at the table. They establish some rules like every 10 minutes there has to be a block on average. We should have a fixed difficulty of how many players participate. Obviously, the more participants you have, the more you can adapt that difficulty, and the fewer you have, maybe the more difficult you make it, so it's an equal opportunity for everyone. And once that is established, you then start playing the game. And that game is that the continuous next block that comes in the Bitcoin blockchain has an established number in a hash. A hash is simply, you put in a lot of information on one end, you use an algorithm to hash that, so to do a lot of fast calculations, and you then come out with a final hash, a number, a solution if you want to say so, in that game. When everyone starts playing that game, everyone knows in this given time with that given difficulty, so that's the parameters and the settings you set in to start your machines, we have to find that solution because that's given due to the Bitcoin blockchain. And then it goes on. They do all of their calculations, they try different variances, they try different sequences, and whoever finds the right solution the fastest, and who can obviously also prove that they've done this, those are then the ones who are actually being rewarded with the block subsidiary, which is existent of a block price, if you want to say so, which is currently 3.125 Bitcoin. That's what we call the reward. And on the other hand, the transaction fees that also are being produced with each block, depending how many transactions get put into it and all of these things alike. That is an essential part to how Bitcoin works. And the miners are there actually solving two problems with two specific set of things. Number one, with ASICs, which are computers specified towards mining, and all they do is actually solve these mathematical puzzles. Our computers could, in theory, also do this, but they would just be way too slow to do this and probably break down immediately, whereas the ASICs are really good at just doing this simple task. And then at the second point, miners are actually also using a lot of energy because that is a very resource-intensive thing to do with these ASICs. And therefore, they look for the cheapest opportunity out there to have stable energy in a stable environment, and potentially, if it's possible, at such a low cost that you're obviously making a lot of returns on your mining infrastructure. To do so, you wouldn't plug into, in the middle of New York or any major conglomerate city. In fact, you look for alternative energy sources, which then resulted in the mining network currently using 60% of its global input, so the global amount of energy it requires and uses, and 60% of that is being driven on by renewable energy. Why renewable? Well, it's often the cheapest form of energy, and it's also the most attractive for a business because it often either comes in remote places where you may have certain business advantages. Think of if you set up shop somewhere in the Caribbean, your business may even benefit from a local jurisdiction. Or on the other hand, you are also there to be a codependent participant in the local energy system. And this brings me really into a major problem the mining industry is solving. Not only are we getting new blocks every 10 minutes, and therefore it's the foundation Bitcoin is built upon, and we have an open free mining market, which enables every participant to come into it, but we now also have an industry that's running 60% on renewables, more than any other industry. Banking, Christmas lights, whatever, they can all leave that behind. They're nowhere near these numbers, and therefore also be a net benefit for these local grids. See, whenever there is an overload or an underload with energy, miners simply need to turn the machines off. It's not as complicated as turning on a nuclear power plant, for example, or turning it off for that matter. It's simply just as much as switching the buttons, the energy will run out, the machines will wind down, they can then feed that energy back to the system, it can be used, or the other way around, if there is an over delivery of energy, so you need someone that takes up a lot of energy and takes it really fast, miners can be very beneficial too. This makes mining now extremely interesting for a lot of energy companies as well. We've seen examples in Japan where people in the State Department actually saw the local energy state provider forming a subsidiary to run on 100% renewable energy and solely mine Bitcoin because they had too much energy left over and it had to be used somehow. Or you have cases such in Texas where the Bitcoin mining industry is now a key player in Ascot, which is the local energy provider and the system and the grid to stabilize that grid, because energy grids often have fluctuations in between how stable that energy output is being distributed. Will we ever get away from the fact that mining uses a lot of energy? No, we won't. But just the fact that 60% of that energy currently, it could be even more in the future, is renewable energy, and that it enables businesses to be more spread across the world and use local opportunities to either stabilize the grid or to simply monetize stranded energy, which is not being used anyhow, mine Bitcoin with it. They can even sell the Bitcoin if they want to, or simply keep it and make a case study out of it of how you can actually use every square inch of available resources. That makes mining extremely interesting and is the reason why it's not just Bitcoin mining currently, but you also have a lot of AI data centers and more generally energy providers interested in the whole aspect as well. But what do you think? Are there also any other use cases or things you would be interested in mining? This was a very broad breakdown now, and I'm fully aware that I can go into much more detail. If you wish so, leave me a comment below and let me know. And very importantly, I look forward to seeing you in the next video again.